Hello and welcome to the College Countdown Application Day Toolkit webinar for 2021. We are here to talk about the toolkit and about College Countdown and college application days. Thank you so much for joining us. As people are joining in for the webinar, we want to take the time to poll you guys just to see your what you are doing with application days, what you've done in the past, just to see your experience. So be sure to answer the poll that's popped up. Have you previously hosted an application day event for your students? Yes or no? This will give us a good idea as to where the audience is in your experience with college application days. Thanks so much. We see several of them coming in. Awesome. Okay, so several of you have not, but several of you have. So we have a mixed audience, so that's awesome. It's great to see you guys participating. Thanks again for joining us. Just as a reminder, some housekeeping, this presentation is being recorded. It is in webinar format, so we cannot see or hear you, but you can use the question and answer as well as chat if you need to correspond with us. During the presentation, you can ask questions in the question and answer box, and be sure to utilize the chat feature if you need to address the panelists or you have any tech issues. The date is August the 11th if you are watching this recording. And we are with Get to College, a program of the Woodward Hines Education Foundation. And this webinar is all about College Countdown and college application days. I am Brandy Lindell, and I am joined by my colleague, Kirsten Dufour, and we co-manage College Countdown Mississippi. Now, let's talk a little bit about what an application day is. It is in partnership with the College Application Campaign. That is nationwide, and College Countdown Mississippi supports application days across Mississippi to increase the number of students applying, enrolling, and succeeding in college. College Countdown Mississippi is a statewide initiative that encompasses application days, FAFSA days, and signing days. Today, we're going to focus on the application day portion of College Countdown. Sorry about that. Now let's talk about the history of our application days in Mississippi. Just last year, we had 123 participating high schools, as well as 2,298 high school seniors participating in college application days, and 3,582 applications were submitted. So what a great opportunity for students in Mississippi last year, and we hope to even increase those numbers this coming year with your help.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Like Brandy said, my name is Kirsten Dufour, and we're excited to go through the Application Day Toolkit with you guys. So this is an updated version of the 2021 Application Day Toolkit. And so we're going to go through these pieces of it and kind of explain it to you. So let's go ahead and get started. So step one begins with kind of that outlining of your plan. And so each of these that is in the toolkit is hyperlinked to a Dropbox. And so it's going to have all of these resources that you can download. So if you see anything with the blue underlined, it means that it is hyperlinked to give you more details and more information. And so the outline of the plan is, there is a timeline for site coordinators that we have as a resource for you that gives you all the way up to over a year in advance in planning. Not to say that that's how you have to do that, but it gives you an understanding of what are all the elements that need to be considered, and then what's the time frame and length before the actual event. And that needs to be worked on and thought about. So it's kind of a guiding place to start. Of course, at the date for your event, having a planning committee is one thing that we've heard over and over from a lot of site coordinators that make it very critical to be very successful for application days and the whole College Countdown Mississippi initiative for your organization, school events. And so we have actually a reference sheet to kind of help you consider who all should be a part of the planning committee, who all should be involved with that process. And then, of course, register your event with College Countdown Mississippi. I'll drop in the chat in just a second the registration. Hopefully, if you're joining us today, that you've already done your registration. But if not, we'll provide that for you to make sure that you have registered and are getting credit for all the work that you're doing and support for your students. I would encourage you guys to regularly check in and have those meetings with your committee, because we've created and provided you with a sample kind of agenda and talking points with your committee, but making sure that you're having regular check-ins will make it more successful than just right before the event or initially, and helps divide out that workload. How create and share save the date promotional things, not only within your school and your parents, but also within the community, to build into really making this all encompassing to support your students in completing those applications. We know that a student that completes at least 3 college applications are 50% more likely to enroll. And again, we define anything at College Countdown as college is anything post-secondary. So we're speaking here about anything from a certificate program all the way to a bachelor's degree when we talk about these application day events. And we have a lot of graphics that we've created, and we're going to share with you guys that you can put on social media. They're formatted for all different sizes. That really builds up awareness of why to apply and why applying for post-secondary is important and what it will create long-term benefits for your community and your students. And then, of course, make a supply list for your event. If you're doing the different type of delivery formats, you'll need different materials, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then we always encourage you to do a test run before your event. Brandy and I did a test run before this webinar this morning, and we encourage you to do kind of just like a logistical walkthrough of things. If you're doing it with some technology, we know that those always create a little bit of a challenge, but then even if it's in person, just making sure that everybody's on the same page and it flows smoothly. We have an example in the toolkit for you that's actually a video. Long Beach High School does a fantastic job with their pre-communication, and we want to kind of just share with you guys what are people doing in the field in Mississippi. And so in the toolkit, this is actually hyperlinked to a YouTube video that the site coordinator at Long Beach High School shares what they do to communicate with not only within the school, but also with student and parents to build awareness about these events that are coming up that are supporting their graduating seniors.
Thanks, Kirsten. I'm going to cover step 2, where we're selecting the options. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can host an application day. And so we're going to go through all 3 options that we have included within the toolkit. Option 1 is hybrid delivery. Option 2, traditional delivery. And then option 3 is classroom delivery. And so it really is up to you to find the best way to serve your students, whatever works for your school district and your school. So let's go through these options and talk about the basics of what that means within these different deliveries. So a hybrid delivery is hosting an event with a combination of virtual and in-person during the school day. Now, obviously, that's going to take volunteers. You may need assistance from college reps and teachers. And you obviously need to determine the online platform and where you're going to set up the in-person location. So are you going to have teachers in person and students in person? We're going to have college reps virtually. How will that work within your event? And be sure, we again, as Kirsten mentioned, hyperlinked a lot of resources throughout this toolkit. We have a virtual background that you can use. Kirsten and I are using that today, so you can see what that looks like. And so if you do anything virtually around college application days, definitely utilize these resources. If you decide on a hybrid delivery, you'll need to decide on a platform. We have Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet assistants. So if you decide on a platform and you haven't used this virtual option before, we have assistance and resources for you throughout the toolkit. And then obviously you're going to need to prepare logistics for the day. What handouts are you going to have for students? What about your logistics with spaces and the virtual aspect, application fee waivers, transcript request forms, and then, of course, the student participation form, because we'll talk a little bit later about why data is important, but it is important for you to track how that's happening and what students are doing at your application day. Now, traditional delivery is probably what we're all been familiar with in the past, where you have it during the school day in person, but you group the students together based on a certain subset of maybe the class that they're in. Maybe all English class or social studies class are pulled into the library or the computer lab. Maybe you do it by alphabetical order. Whatever works within your school planning day, where you are grouping students together and working with them based on that group. You'll need to have banners and flyers to remind students. Again, if this is in person, you're going to want them to know when and where and how to be prepared for that. Determine the best way to collect your data with either a sign-in or sign-out sheet or an online post-event survey. Work with your planning format, your planning committee, to decide what class times, what groups of students, should there be specific colleges within one day. For example, if a lot of your students apply to the local community college or the nearest four-year college, do you need to have them present and apply to that school all at one time? So again, based on the unique circumstances within your school, small groups of students will ultimately meet with either a teacher, the site coordinator, volunteers, or admission counselors and recruiters. And then there's also been some schools that have had their application day in person in conjunction with the school's college fair. You already have the admissions counselors there. And so it may be able to utilize them in one more step to help your students apply to college in addition to attending the college fair. And then our third and final option for hosting an application day is classroom delivery. Now, you might want to ask what is different about classroom delivery and the traditional option. This is a format that we have seen, you'll see a little later, that where site coordinators are utilizing CCR classes or maybe senior sponsors, where they are working with a particular teacher that has a great deal of these students, these senior students throughout the school day. And so it's actually happening within the classroom instead of pulling groups out into the library or computer lab. And so this is an opportunity for you to, number one, utilize the CCR class, the English class, or the senior sponsor for assistance, but it also allows you to have the students work on applications a little longer, meaning they can build up and do research. There can be days within the classroom where they are beginning a career search, looking at academic requirements. They can utilize the Get to College snapshots that we have on our website to do research about colleges, thinking about fit. What schools do I want to attend? What schools am I looking for? What's the best match for me? Inviting schools to visit that particular group of students within the classroom and have students build their college list. at least 3 colleges before the application day, so that students are prepared once you have the event, they know where they're applying and why. And then, of course, you're also going to have different logistics for that day, picking a day, distributing a plan, communicating with the CCR teacher or English teacher, having, again, application fee waivers and transcript request forms, so that the students are not only prepared before the event, but they are able to be successful and apply to multiple schools the day of the event. I'd now like to share with you the Application Day Toolkit has these hyperlinked videos where site coordinators have worked with students within the classroom format and then in the CCR class. We've had 2 schools that we've talked to this year, West Lauderdale High School and Mendenhall High School. Their site coordinators are sharing their application day events within the classroom settings through these YouTube videos. So be sure to check them out within the toolkit.
All right, so we want to make sure that your application day is successful. And so to encourage that it's a successful event and all of the delivery options, a key piece of that is making sure that your students are prepared. Like Brandy mentioned, making that as a preparedness for students coming into your event, and having them be aware of what are their college options and kind of having narrowed down where they plan to submit their application, because the purpose of the application day event is to provide those supports for them while they complete that application. And so, like was mentioned earlier, that research piece beforehand for students is super important. So utilizing things like the college snapshots that has the information about all of the colleges in Mississippi, 2-year, 4-year, public, private, that really shows the top majors, shows the amount of students that receive aid, need-based aid that goes to the school, the average class profile, those type of things. Another thing is that if you as a practitioner are unfamiliar with guiding students on how to build a college list, we actually have a recorded webinar from last fall that we have a former colleague who is also a former director of admissions at a college in Mississippi and now works with students in a smaller school setting, building out a college list. And she really talks through, how do you talk to students about finding the best fit, finding the best match, and then considering, all of the elements that go into what a student should look for in college. And so that recording is hyperlinked. It's a webinar, so it's a little bit longer, but I really encourage, if you're new to talking to students about how to figure out which colleges to apply, it's a fantastic resource for you as a practitioner to watch that. And then those 3 factors, like Brandy mentioned, when building that college list for the students, we want them to apply to at least 3 colleges. If they would like to do more, they can certainly do so, but at least 3 is what builds that statistic of that 50% enrollment. And so things that are part of the prep conversation with your students, whether you're a counselor that's going into and meeting with your students individually or going into classrooms, or you're a teacher and you're implementing this in your class, these are kind of those topics. So the match, does a college match with academic needs and records fit? Does a college fit the student's preferences as far as location or amount of financial aid and cost, which we'll get a little bit more into that in a second? Does it match socially, academically? And then the cost piece, how much does it really cost to attend that school? How much, is advertised as tuition, but then we know there's so much more there. So with cost of attendance, not only is tuition a piece, but if they're living on campus, there's a housing and meal plan, in addition to understanding what scholarships are available based off their academic requirements or leadership or other things like that. The ACAC has a lot of really good resources that are a lot more in depth, that if you would like to have like a worksheet, which helps students kind of dig in and think about all of these major factors in an interactive form. They've got the college research worksheet that's hyperlinked. They've got the application worksheet. So these are like commonly asked questions for college applications. when you host these events and assist the students, you'll see that every colleges generally ask some of the same things, but then there are some that ask a lot more detail of things and some that only want just generic demographic information. And so that application worksheet prepares students for a variety of questions that may be asked that they may not think of, such as their parents' contact information, the senior class schedule, stuff like that. And then the students who qualify for free or reduced lunch could qualify for an application fee waiver. That document that's hyperlinked talks about where the sources of application fee waivers come from and explains to the student what that means. If you are someone who can issue fee waivers, whether they're the ACT fee waivers for the cost for the fee for ACT, that document can also be used for the application cost for admissions to be waived. Also, NACAC has a form. And so that document right there is educational to the student, but then also to you to know where those fee waiver forms can come from and how they're used by the college. And then we wanted to share some free resource platforms. We have a few schools in Mississippi that are using My Options. There's a student-facing part and an educator-facing part. And it's essentially there if you're working with students and a cohort of them and you want to know where they are in the application process, not just in admissions, but also in financial aid and in kind of that college selection, it gives you a free option that is equivalent to like a Naviance, which is like a paid option to kind of track your students in those checklist items. And so just know that those link into demos and are available for you to utilize if you want a more technology-based tracking system for your students.
I'm going to now go over step 4, which is promoting the event. And regardless of the format that you choose, it's so important that you promote the event with your students, your teachers, your faculty, your parents, and your community. So use all of the steps and resources to support your college application day to build awareness. And we have some links for you to use with a mayoral proclamation if you're looking to build awareness within your community and to have more people understand and know what you're doing on site at school for you to increase the chances of your students going to college or taking that next step after high school. Encourage sharing on social media. We hope that you take pictures, that you list the event on your social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We hope to see all of that for your day. When it comes to within the classroom in person, teachers can hang on their door, ask me about my college posters. And this is a great way to build that college going culture. All of the teachers in your building have gone to some type of college. And so you definitely want to use them as a resource that they are within that school and in front of those students every single day. And so you want to use that opportunity to promote that college going culture within your high school. We have links for that as well. Send reminders 1 month before, a week before, a day before, and we have application day branding for you to use. In addition to these virtual backgrounds, you have a link to different ways that you can brand college countdown and your college application days, and engage the community, your local recruiters, have them help you promote the event and share so that you get supportive messages for your students and that everyone's aware of the great things that are happening at your school district.
All right, so step 5 is to celebrate and share. So at this point, you have hosted your event, and we want you to make sure that all of the work that your team has put into it for your students, and your students are excited. It builds momentum. It is, the beginning of their senior year. It is a exciting time for so many. And so to continue with that, we want to make it a celebratory type of event. And so after you host your day, some things that you can do is there are I applied posters or sheets of paper that can be individualized for the students that they can take a picture with. So it has a school college logo on it for all the colleges in Mississippi. There's a template one if you want to add for other colleges or just type the name in. And then the students can write their name at the top and they can share, I applied to, and then it shows the college logo. And they can take those pictures after they submit their application and post those on social media using hashtags for College Countdown Mississippi, as well as the National College Application Campaign, and get those shared out not only in Mississippi and the local community, but at a national level too, and make it fun for your students. If they want to do a TikTok video where the senior class shows all the different places that they have applied with those posters, or wearing the shirts that they applied to, or a pennant, or things like that. And so not just as a checklist item of something they need to do their senior year, but make it as a fun celebratory event, because oftentimes, particularly for first generation students, it's a daunting task that has been opened up to them as a easy resource place for students to guide them. And hey, they've applied to college. That's a very large next step for them. And so also creating a celebratory space to know that they are encouraged by their community, by their family, and by their school on what their next step plans after graduation.
Now, for step 6 is all about reporting the event. And I had mentioned earlier that it's so important for you to capture data. It helps us tremendously in sharing back out to you what's happening in the state of Mississippi. It also gives us an opportunity for national recognition. This past year, our School of Excellence was given national recognition for application days. And so it's important that you report your event date and your student level data to College Countdown Mississippi by November 1st. And that allows us, again, to know what's happening and be able to select not only our School of Excellence for College Countdown, but also premier schools. And so we want to highlight and celebrate your good work within the school districts. And this is the way that you communicate with us of what you're doing and how it's going for you. Data collection will be emailed to you September 1st. So if you're wondering, where is that? How do I submit my data? You will be getting a data form, but just for you to be prepared, let's talk about the collection fields. What are you going to be asked when submitting your data? The number of seniors who submitted at least one application, the total number of college applications submitted at the event by all participants. You can, if you would like to break it up between 2-year, 4-year, and out-of-state colleges, we'll be happy with that as well. The number of participants who are first-generation students, the number total of participants who had not previously applied, that was their first application, and then the size of your senior class for 2022. And so that definitely helps you know that you're gonna be able to submit your data, what you'll be expecting in that form. And we just want to be able to celebrate you and be able to show the state of Mississippi as well as nationally the good work that's happening within our state.
Okay, so we have a few dates that we want to put on your radar. The September 17th date is National Why Apply Day. And this is a really fun day. Like Brandy mentioned, all of your teachers in your school, or if you're an external organization from a school, more than likely a lot of your constituents went to some sort of a college post-secondary. And so the purpose of Why Apply Day, it's sponsored by the American College Application Campaign, ACAC, like Brandy mentioned earlier, which is an initiative of ACT Centers for Equity and Learning, is to celebrate the more than 700,000 students that participate in all 50 states, including DC, in college application days as a statewide campaign. And so the purpose of it is to kick off the season of applications on social media and encourage students to begin that process. And so last year we made a video. We're going to do that again, and we'll hashtag it and produce on September 17th. So that may be a fun activity that your committee works on over the next couple of weeks and then releases it as why students should apply. Get your administration, get your coaches, get your teachers to all share about why they applied to college, what applying to college meant to them, and what opportunities hopefully opened up because they chose post-secondary. Even get your community members involved. There's some sample, the website that is linked here has some samples of like mayors showing your why apply reason handout with a picture, has, local celebrities, that type of thing. So this is a great way to kind of help that kickoff of your event, and know that a lot of other organizations are doing that too. So if you want some inspiration on how to promote, just check out that hashtag why apply. So on September 17th, we hope to see the internet flooded with all of the Mississippi why apply promotion, videos, dates, pictures, things like that. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that we gave you a lot of resources throughout the entire toolkit. So we kind of put them all into one checklist. And so each one of these are going to be linked to a Dropbox folder that's based off of that specific topic. But then the specific documents, if you want those, they're linked throughout the toolkit. And so we just wanted to give you a combined file if that works better for you, to be able to get all of those folders to download whichever documents that you'd like to use and have it in one-stop shop. And then lastly, the dates that we want to put on your radar. If you are a new site coordinator, we need that with the poll entry that a lot of those joining us today have not previously hosted an application day or maybe new into the role of being a site coordinator. We're hosting a training on August the 19th at 3:30, where it's going to be really collaborative. You're going to be able to hear from veteran site coordinators and then also ideas share amongst your peers. And so it's not just going to be Brandy and I sharing out information. It's really going to be more so you and others talking amongst yourselves, sharing ideas, asking questions, talking through those logistical pieces. And that will be for an hour. So it'll be 3:30 to 4:30. And then we're going to do the same type of kickoff for FAFSA toolkits on September the 9th at 10 a.m. And then we're going to do the same style for signing day on March the 2nd. So without further ado, I'm going to drop in the chat the link to the much anticipated Application Day Toolkit that we've gone over today. And we appreciate everybody joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A. Again, thank you for joining us. Brandy and I are so thrilled to have all of you here with us today, and we can't wait to see all of the application days that you guys host, and we can't wait to highlight those things here in Mississippi, but also on a national level, and all the support that you're providing for your students. We'll hang out here for just a few more minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A or the chat. But we thank you for joining us today.